I wasn't live on YouTube. So that's what it was. I wasn't live on YouTube. I am live now. And I can go live here as well. There you go. So I wasn't actually live on YouTube. I was just live on Twitch. So now we're live and everywhere we need to be. And there we go. Okay, so hopefully they'll find me where they need to find me. Here. Yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping that this worked as it should. Especially because I'm trying to figure out if I can like how I can like do YouTube Shorts as well, going live on YouTube Shorts. Trying that out for the first time. We'll see how that's going. But nonetheless, let's continue with what we got here. So, hey Sans, how you doing? Yeah, sorry, I realized that I did not go live on YouTube. I went live. I'm trying to figure out the whole situation with YouTube Shorts, seeing if I can get that working. But it seems like, you know, as usual, there's issues everywhere when you're trying to implement something new. And I was just stating how today's gonna be a short-ish stream. So we'll jump right into the news. So what has happened this week in the gaming space, right? In the gaming industry. Well, one of the major things I wanted to talk about today is I don't know if you heard, but Nintendo has recently put out this new patents that everybody is scared of. Everybody's worried about what these patents might entail, what they might end up doing, how they might be manipulated, and how it's going to affect the gaming community as a whole. So, in case you don't know, Nintendo recently released a couple of patents, honestly, but we'll get to the one that got released yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. But they've been slowly getting their own repertoire of like patents that they've been slowly building up and pushing, at least directly to US, right? To get the patents on the US specifically. I'm not sure if it's worldwide, but I know this is affecting the US right now. So the first patent that they took out is a patent where this happened a week ago or so, where they took out a patent talking about the, what is it? It's talking about, let me see my notes real quick for a second. All right, so the new ones, so the patent is on mounts. So what do I mean by mounts? So basically, they placed a patent talking about how their wording is a little bit too vague, and it's basically any sub character that the protagonist or main character can mount, be on top of, and ride and move, used to move from destination A to destination B, right? And if I look up, I don't think I have the actual patent, but let me see if I can pull up on screen real quick. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, okay, lovely. Okay, so I'm gonna make myself just a tad bigger. I won't be able to make myself. I'll fix this later. But okay, so let me show on screen what I want to show real quick. Let me make sure which one is showing this data. They really be trying to everything to get power taken out. But so yes, I would agree with that one, especially with the newest one that they just took out, right? So if I can look at the patents real quick, let me see if I can. Let me try to share this on screen for you guys. Give me a sec. No. It's not that one. I mean, this one could work. Yeah, this one will work. Okay, properties. Change it. And let's put you on. Let's put you Blah, blah, blah. No. Where are you? Where are you? There you are. There we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Okay. So what I'm showing right now is a news article that got released. I think this one literally came out today. I think this one, it should be somewhere around here, the date that it was released. If I'm not mistaken, this one just came out today. If not today, yesterday. Okay, so yesterday. It came out yesterday. And so this is talking over some of the patents that Nintendo has been pushing forward. And those are, if I can find the wording here, they mention basically okay, so this article is specifically talking about patent number, where are you? They have the number somewhere around here. 397 is a patent. Yeah, so patent number 397, and there's patent 387, which patent 387 is the one about the mounting, right? So 387, like I mentioned, is very, very vague, and what it does is that it tells it patents the idea of mounting any what would you say, let me make sure this is a little bit clear here. Yeah, there you go. There you go, there you go, there you go, there you go. Come on, come on, come on. There's one more thing I need to take out. Come on, there should be pictures. There you are. Okay, so I'll take this out so we can see it properly. So these patent, basically anything that would be you mounting or you getting on top of a character to ride it or anything like that, that's been patented by Nintendo. Now, that should not be allowed, right? I'm surprised that they allow that. It should not have been allowed, especially considering the fact that they're not the first person to do mounting, right? Nintendo, Nintendo games in general, I guess maybe Joshi you could consider, but Nintendo games in general have not really seen a lot of mounting in the beginning of video games, right? The overall, it's been used everywhere. Like you have stuff like I'm trying to remember. There's a bunch of games that do mounting. Like you have Skyrim, you have Red Dead, you have what other one? You have the newest Elden Ring. Like you have so many games where mounting is an essential part and it's part of the identity of that game, that them just flat out taking mounting as a whole and just saying, yeah, no, you can't do that now. That's ours now. You cannot. And if you do, we'll sue you. Right? That's just crazy. It's crazy that that's a thing. Right? And additional to that, we can also focus on the newest one, which is the one that they just patented, which is basically it's summoning a companion to fight for you, right? So they are stating, in once again a very broad terms, they are stating that if you in some way, shape, or form were to summon an ally, a sub character, that sub character then fights and is controlled by the player and fights for the main character. That is what they're patenting. That idea of like some separate entity fighting or doing actions aside from your main character, your main entity, right? That is crazy, right? That is not just Pokemon games. Like this, that encompasses so many different types of games out there, right? The whole summoning a monster, like the simplest way I could describe it, I guess, would be if you look at something like Kingdom Hearts. In Kingdom Hearts, there are a couple of monsters, or in this case, story characters that you would be able to summon to fight alongside you or to use a special ability, right? Also, where does this stop? It's such a vague wording when you say summoning a sub character that, technically speaking, even mobile games will fall under it, right? There's mobile games where the whole point is that you have a bunch of summoning characters, you summon a bunch of characters that fight for you, right? Could something like Teamfight Tactics fall under that? Because technically, you have your thing and you're summoning a character to fight for you, right? This is the problem with what's happening right now. These patents are so vague. They are so vague that they are being used. These patents are so vague that they're being used to just completely go against gaming as a whole. Like any company, it's the fact that they might not actively try to sue these games, like anything that would maybe crash on that. But what you do see is that it's the threat. It's a hovering Big Brother is looking type of threat, right? Because this means that any indie developer that were to publish their game, if it incorporates any of those aspects, even if they're done in a completely unique way and completely recreating what was how we usually did games in that aspect, they would still be liable for Nintendo to sue them, right? This is a real worry that people would have to have going forward. There's a bunch of Pokemon-ish RPG games out there, right? One that I've played before and I really enjoy is Cassette Beast. So Cassette Beast came out maybe 4 years ago. And that whole point of that game was that you would go find these monsters that you would find on the wild. You would be able to catch those monsters in a cassette tape. And then the only difference between, I guess, there's a bunch of differences, but the only difference between this and the patent would be that you transform into the monster and then you fight, right? In a similar way that you would throw your Pokemon and them fight for you, right? Still, it's very vague. That's the problem. The patent is too vague, and it allows them to be able to basically attack anybody at any point if they don't like them, or even if it's not because they have something against the company, they could just do it because it's potentially free money. And an example of this has already happened. This happened with Nintendo. They had patented the action or the movement format of touching on screen and you having a virtual touchpad that allows you to move your character around, right? They patented that. And then a mobile game that came out not too long ago, I do not know the names, I could search up more details on them, but then there was a mobile game that came out that used the touchpad, a virtual touchpad, for you to be able to play with it, right? And Nintendo sued them. They literally sued them and they won. They got a payout of $30 million out of that company for using touching on screen, like using the movement format of a phone that you do when you're playing on an app on your phone game. The whole aspect of you moving your character by just tapping and scrolling on screen is now patented by Nintendo. Next thing you know, they're gonna patent controllers. Exactly. And I mean, they have, technically speaking, they've patented their design for the Nintendo Switch. That like whole clicking format, I believe that's also been patented by them. So, and they used to have the patent for the Wii controllers, right? So that's why you would see stuff like PlayStation having to do it's similar but different ways of doing their controllers to make sure that they didn't fall under Nintendo's patent. But that's hardware, right? So I don't know. I would expect hardware to be easier to patent for them, because Nintendo does do a lot of unique things with their hardware, right? And that's fine. And especially with hardware, you have to be very specific on what exactly you want to be patented. You can't just patent the idea, the concept of a controller, right? That's not the same, or that doesn't apply directly when we're talking about code, when we're talking about game concepts and ideas like that. Those concepts in video games can be so abstract sometimes that you can patent it, right? So for example, another situation where this has happened in the past is with I think it's a EA, I believe it's EA or Ubisoft, whichever made the Lord of the Rings some Shadow of Mordor game, right? So the Lord of the Rings Shadow of Mordor game had a nemesis system, right? Where the enemies you would fight and you would spare, if I'm not mistaken, you would leave alive, would come back. Or even, I think, yeah, if you left them alive, they would come back and they would remember you, and then you would fight them, and every single time you fight them, they become stronger, and they would always have some type of quip that they would say to you in regards to you killing them or you fighting them so many times. And then eventually you could make that, nemesis technically your ally and all that kind of stuff. Well, that entire system called the Nemesis system was patented, right? And that's why we haven't been able to see similar mechanics in other games, because they have sued other games in development for having a similar concept to it, right? And once again, the patent is so vague that anybody that does anything similar would immediately fall under that patent and is liable to be sued. And Nintendo is doing exactly this right now, and I'm surprised that it's being allowed to happen without more scrutiny. I guess it's what I would expect, but it's unfortunate we're not seeing that, right? And this is just the start. Nintendo has done so many other patents recently. They've had the patent, and this all started because of Power World, but they also have the patent about having a monster in a ball that you can then catching monsters through a sphere. I think it's how they were mentioning it. That concept of catching monsters in that way is now patented by Nintendo, right? So if you want to create anything Pokemon-ish or whatever in that RPG genre of like monster catching, you're gonna have to create your own way of catching the monster, right? You can't use what Power World uses, which is also like a spear. So it is unfortunate that that's gotten to this point. Sincerely, like I believe that Nintendo those laws should be a little bit more scrutinized, or at least they can patent their things, but they have to be a little bit more specific on what it is they're patenting. They should not be as vague as they have been so far. And everybody's worried about what this could entail, right? Because if they get away with patenting these things, what we could end up happening is like, what's stopping, if this is Nintendo, what's stopping Microsoft from starting to patent different things, right? What's stopping Sony from patenting different things? And Blizzard or EA, Ubisoft, what is stopping them from doing patents that are vague enough where then if you ever want to create any product, you would have to go through them, or they have to be allowed or by them, right? That's not what we want. We don't want to get to that point. We want to encourage innovation, and at the same time not restrict it, right? So this patent just makes it so much harder. It's narrowing down slowly but surely what type of games people could, like indie developers would be able to make themselves. So that is currently what's happening. We would have to wait for more information regarding the patents, but these have passed. They have a patent number and everything right now. So it's just wild that they've not been stopped yet, right? They haven't been scrutinized more by officials, patent lawyers, and stuff like that. So it's something that for you indie developers out there, I would highly encourage you to check these patents that they're coming out with and ensure that your game doesn't fall under it. I know that, once again, the problem is that they're very vague, but try to avoid them because Nintendo has become very aggressive with their not just their IPs. They've become way more aggressive with their lawsuits, right? They've been suing a lot of different things. So please be careful out there when you're making a game. I would hate for an indie developer to make a game, be successful, and then have that money stolen due to such vague patents. So please be careful. That is unfortunately all we can say about the Nintendo patents so far. They've done a lot of patents. We can't say more about it. We can only hope that at some point somebody, a patent lawyer somewhere or a patent official, looks at it and takes it back or does something. Because if this stays this way, Nintendo and frankly any major game developer could take control over a lot of different things that of designs of how we make games. So we'll have to wait and see. With that said, another thing that has been happening a lot recently, or actually, okay, so we've been having issues with developers and all that, and this is all, we have to make sure that those devs that do make games don't fall under these many patents, and that they're safe, and that they can profit out of their games, right? Well, speaking of profiting out of your games, right now there's been a huge marketing campaign from Borderlands 4. So Borderlands 4, I don't know if you've noticed, but has been just completely overfilling the market with a bunch of different ads out there in a bunch of different ways. Like they've been marketing it a lot. About Borderlands 4 is one of the more heavily marketed games I've seen in recent years, more than Call of Duty or more than Battlefield, honestly. Like, you can't go anywhere right now without seeing a Borderlands 4 ad, and there might be a reason for that. So one of the reasons that's been happening is they are becoming desperate because they know they lost a lot of people's confidence on them, right? With what happened with the release of Borderlands 3. So what happened with Borderlands 3? Well, Borderlands 3 was not received so kindly compared to how much Borderlands 2 was received. Everybody loves Borderlands 2, right? But Borderlands 3, on the other hand, there were a lot of issues. So one of the issues is people were complaining about the late game. So the late game for Borderlands 3 was apparently not as difficult as Borderlands 2, or people just felt like the late game in Borderlands 3 didn't have enough substance for people to keep on playing, right? And they also had issues where they felt like maybe it was because the character classes were apparently so broken that it was super easy to just kind of cheese the game and make it super easy for for players, right? To maximize the game and just make it easy, even in the hardest difficulty. Now, that being said, that wasn't the biggest offender. The biggest offender for Borderlands 3 was its writing. So there were a lot of issues with Borderlands 3 and its the perception of the story, or how they did the writing. So in this case, it was because Borderlands 3 focused, I believe, lost a little bit of its identity because it focused so much on being comedic, being funny, instead of telling a good story or being serious, right? And that's because I believe they took the wrong message from Borderlands 2. Borderlands 2, although, yes, very funny, and there's a lot of really nice clips and banter between characters, Borderlands 2, at the end of the day, it was a very serious and dark game. The only reason it was funny is because, well, I mean, you had banter, you had like quirky characters, but you also had like psychotic characters in the mix. And these characters still were really cool characters, and their focus was still just, you know, really cool, do their job, they have a story, they have a mission, and that's what they're doing, right? There was a story they were going for, and the story was very serious, and then you just happen to have funny moments in between, which worked because since you had such a serious story, when the comedy hit, it hit well, right? Because you weren't necessarily expecting it all the time. But Borderlands 3 felt like they were searching for a viral one-liner every single sentence. Borderlands 3 felt like they forgot that the story they were telling was something serious and something that was costing people's lives, right? It stopped taking itself seriously to an extreme where it started, you know, just lowering the overall quality of the story. I heard Borderlands 4 couldn't run 60 FPS on RTX 4090s. Yes, that's also true. Borderlands 4 has been having a lot of performance issues recently, especially because there was a broadcast for Borderlands 4. It was a promotional video, and in that promotional video, Borderlands 4 crashed. So they haven't been doing so well. They already have the bad stigma from Borderlands 3, which people just found that it was too gimmicky. It became a cardboard cutout of what Borderlands was. The gameplay was still fun, but the story was no longer something that interested players. The same thing happened with when they released Borderlands Wonderland, or the D&D one. So when they released that one, same thing. Originally, the reason they made a D&D game, a full D&D game, is because that was the most popular DLC for Borderlands 2. And the reason it was so popular is because, although, yes, it was funny, it was a unique concept of viewing a D&D first-person shooter type of thing, the problem was that in the DLC, the story was still very serious. In the end, the main topic of that story was dealing with grief. It was dealing with the death of Roland, the death of whatever was the father figure of the character, right? But in the new Wonderland, the new main game that they made of this iteration of D&D first-person shooter, there was basically no story. I mean, like, you could play the game without really paying attention. I played the game. I didn't even get to finish it, or at least I don't remember finishing it. That's how impactful the story was. It just tried to be funny and do D&D references and just do that the entire time, and it stopped trying to be a coherent story, something that we could get attached to the characters. Borderlands 3 and Wonderland were games where it was funny all the time, so when we were getting to a serious moment, we couldn't take it seriously because we just didn't create enough of a emotion with the characters, because the characters weren't serious either. Now, this whole banter of me saying what was wrong with Borderlands 3 is to say that due to these issues, Borderlands 4 has had a aggressive marketing campaign, basically saying, guys, we heard you, we're going back to what we were good at. This is gameplay, this is really good FPS, and it's all about the guns, and that's all fine, but they've also been very, very specific in stating that the story is more serious. That the story, although it has this Borderland-esque funniness and humor, it is a serious story. But they're becoming scared. The one thing I'm worried is that they'll be too scared in the new game to actually provide jokes or like their humor as much as they did. At least Borderlands 2. Hey Rover, how you doing? Welcome back. So Borderlands 4, they're talking about how serious it is and how it's come back. We're no longer gonna be like doing this cringy humor or anything. We're not trying to just do a one-liner humor every single line. But it's losing its identity by trying to reach out to more people, because they've even added a feature recently where it's if you find Claptrap, and if you know who Claptrap is, he can be very annoying. And some people do find him annoying when they play Borderlands. But he's, I would say, still very integral to the personality that is Borderlands. They've been so like, hey, we're not funny anymore. We're serious. We can be serious. We're funny. We mean it. We're not gonna be just making jokes everywhere. And so you can believe me. You know that one character you find really annoying? You just hate him, right? You can't stand his voice. Well, now you can mute him. That's right. You can now apparently have an option on the game to just completely mute Claptrap as a character in the whole game, which is crazy to me. Like, that's not a solution. You don't just. I don't watch a show and then mute only when the annoying character I don't like is talking, right? That's not how you solve an issue. You make the writing better. You make the writing fit the atmosphere so that it matches what the game wants to convey, right? If Claptrap is too annoying and you want him to still be around, then just don't make him a cardboard cutout. Like, still add him, make him do his quirky jokes and all that kind of stuff, but also do a little bit of more serious tone, right? Like, at moments where in Borderlands 2, you figure out that he was part of a revolution, and there was a whole war between those robots and its creators and all that kind of stuff, right? That's something that built a little bit more character in Claptrap that we didn't get to see in Borderlands 3. To me, when I first played Borderlands 1 and 2 and Claptrap was my favorite character, he shouldn't be muted. That's what I mean. Like, because there's still people that find Claptrap as a funny character and people still enjoy Claptrap, that's when they haven't removed it from the game. But then they're trying to cater to everybody. And when you cater to everybody, you cater to nobody. And adding a mute feature is not solving your writing problem. It's just avoiding it. So there's a little bit of worries there regarding Borderlands 4, but they've been very aggressive in their marketing everywhere, showing how they've been back to their roots. So much so that they haven't really been mentioning much about what happened in Borderlands 3. Borderlands 4, it seems to be having some of the characters from Borderlands 3, but it doesn't seem like they're showing any. I don't know if they're gonna bring up stuff that happened in Borderlands 3. It seemed like they were trying to get away from Borderlands 3 as a whole. So I don't know if we're gonna see that many recurring characters from there. Regardless, they're being very aggressive. They have ads everywhere. They're showing gameplay to everybody. They're paying a bunch of different, not just like streamers. You're paying a lot of companies to talk about Borderlands. So like this is definitely the most aggressive I've seen for them pushing their product. And the reviews came in from like Metacritic and OpenCritic and all these places, and they seem to enjoy the game. So I don't expect the game to be bad. I, once again, still think Borderlands is, as a concept, the gameplay of Borderlands is a lot of fun. Borderlands is a game that really cemented to me the looter shooter genre. They're one of the better ones to do it. Destiny kind of like has its thing, but I think Borderlands has always been one of the better ones to make you feel like you could get any gun and you can make any gun work, and all guns would be fun, and you would never know what you would find. That's one of the best like gun designs and skills and all that. Borderlands has done super well with that, and it's genuinely fun to fight enemies, to fight bosses, to like use different character abilities and stuff like that. Borderlands, the gameplay is really fun, but if they don't just ignore the story, we might see the repeat of Borderlands 3. Now, the scores are good. They're seeing 4 out of 5. We're seeing I think it was an 80 something out of 100 in some of these scores. So overall, it seems like critics at least, are enjoying the game. We'll have to wait till the game officially releases later in September to see whether the game is, well, enjoyable for the general public. If we actually end up enjoying the game, and see if they actually fix the issues that we've been criticizing them for in the last few years. So that's what they gotta work on. It's not just like heavy writing. It's also quality of life improvements, similar to how right now, like Sans said, there is literally, the game is crashing. The game is not performing as well as it should, right? That's bad. That's definitely something that they're gonna have to fix before launch, and that and a couple of quality of life improvements that some critics have been mentioning. And speaking of quality of life improvements, another person or another company that has been working on their quality of life improvements recently is Steam. So Steam has been working, has recently come out with an update where they've added a good amount of quality of life improvements to make it more, I guess, more accessible and more customizable for users. So amongst those accessibility, they did add a new feature for yellow colorblind people. So that's really nice that they finally added that for them, so they can actually see and enjoy in the colors, and they can enjoy the what they're seeing. At the same time, they did fix UI scaling. So if you open the app and you either do big screen mode, or you do just the website version or the app version, when you are scaling it up and down on your screen, they've fixed a couple of the issues regarding that. And it's also applies to people who are like developers posting photos and things and like art styles and stuff like that of their games. They've been fixing the UI, because I don't know if you've gone to Steam, but when you go, for example, the community page, you have all the posts of the community right here, but then you have all this dead space right over here that would be normally what you would have for like filters or for like other tags and stuff like that for the games. What they stated is that the new UI should allow for them to take up more of the space on the screen, so that way it's easier and more it's just a better quality of life improvement. It's just nicer to see and nicer to interact with. Another feature that they've been working on is the customizable tabs. So basically, from what I read in their patch notes, this is meant so that you can now customize certain tabs for your games. So this includes actually, this is similar to how Xbox has done it. I don't know if you've played Xbox. I know a lot of people that play a lot of PlayStation, but Xbox gives you an option in your homepage to add a little segment, a little tab of whatever game you want, one of your favorite games or anything like that. And what that would do is that first you could access any game you wanted to play daily, like super easily, but you would also get some artwork, or you would get some additional cosmetic things related to that game in the side, and some, if there was any like patch updates and stuff like that, those notes would also appear there. So it's a very nice kind of like small segment of your screen that gives you information about the game that you like and makes it more accessible for you to be able to boot up that game. Well, Steam is trying to do exactly that. So they're trying to make it so that in your library, you can set up segments or tabs where you have your games, and you can set up artwork or you know, just different different features in that segment. So that way, if you play Fortnite all the time, although Fortnite not the best example. Let's say you play a lot of Monster Hunter. If you play a lot of Monster Hunter, then you can put it there, and you'll be able to see easier access to for you to start playing the game, but also see some patch notes and stuff like that, additional news, and immediately have that in your feed available for you. I believe that's the intention they're trying to get. Next, we're gonna need custom Steam opening intros. Honestly, that'd be really cool. I believe Steam does it for big screen is where you get the custom, not custom, but the stream intros. Being able to actually like import your own custom ones would be really cool. I don't know if they gain money out of it from the custom, from the ones that they do have. Are they all free? I don't think they charge you money to get them, or do they? I don't know, but that would still be really cool. I would love to see like custom intro Steam, like stream intros of like either your from different game developers. They can make their own, and that'd be really cool. I've seen one from Hades and stuff like that. So allowing developers to create their own custom Steam intro would be really nice, especially for people who play on the Steam Deck. That's where they would see it the most. But if you could have other like individual creators create their own openings, that would also be really cool, because then you could have stuff like let's say you have a famous streamer, a famous YouTuber, or anything like that, and then you just want, and you can make an opening related to that. Or you can even streamers themselves, they could, when they boot up their Steam on stream, it will show up their version, similar to how you would do on Twitch with different panels or transitions and stuff like that. So it would be very interesting. But yeah, that's a new feature that they've been working on, and if they execute it correctly, those things would be great quality of life, and would be allow people to be more to personalize Steam more, so that it fits how they want their console, or if it's in the Steam Deck or their desktop, depending on where you play on Steam. Speaking of new features, and there is a new game that has been recently announced, and that new game is Dead Island 3. So I don't know if you heard the news, it's been teased. So apparently developers have been putting some news out there about how they're currently working on Dead Island 3. But I do not know, I don't think we have that much information regarding what exactly Dead Island 3 is gonna really include, right? We don't know if it's gonna be still in LA, similar to Dead Island 2, or if they're gonna move away from LA and they're gonna stay in mainline US, or are they gonna go back to the island setting? Maybe they start doing like a Hawaii setting or something like that. From my understanding, it's still US based, but I don't know. Like it's still too early. They haven't announced enough for us to really tell what it is that it'll include or how it'll be. But it's it's nice to know that they're working on another Dead Island. I love the Dead Island franchise. I've played Dead Island 2, Riptide. I don't think I ever played the first one, but I played those and I always enjoy it. I play with my friends and we goof around. So it's a really fun franchise to play in general. So it's good to hear that they're making a third one. I hope that they, you know, get it done as I would say I will hope that they get it done soon, but I don't want to rush developers. I believe that developers should have their time to do their own, to develop their game. So yeah, so I would say just it arrives when it arrives, and I'm happy to play it when it does arrive eventually in the future. But yeah, that's all we have regarding this week with news. There's been a couple of things. One thing side note that I wanted to mention, a very small snippet, is the fact that it's the fact that Silksong, how great Silksong has been since it launched. So it's been a week since Silksong has been released, and it's been breaking a lot of records. Like, it's been doing super well, especially for a game that was made by 3 people. And as soon as they came in, Cherry, I forgot their name, it's Cherry Studios. Immediately as they came in, they immediately disappeared again, working on their hole again. I heard Silksong actually got support from pirates, since they said it actually worth the price. So yes, so that's another thing, which does fall into what I do want to talk about regarding Silksong. So Silksong, there's been a lot of pirates out there that have been working together to not basically allow piracy of that game to be circulating around, just so that they could basically support the release, because it's $20. It's honestly, the level of entry is really cheap for a really good and polished indie game. And now, that, not to say that Hollow Knight's for everybody. Hollow Knight is a hard game in general, and Silksong is no different. Silksong is also very hard from a lot of the gameplays that I've seen. But regardless, it's something that they've been pushing for, where it's like, hey, don't actually support, you should actually support this project. But within that, there's also been a lot of discussion regarding how Silksong gives a bad precedent for other indie games in the future due to it being so cheap. And I frankly think that is wrong. I think that we are looking at video games in the wrong way. It bothers me that people can go out and be like, oh, your game should be this much. Your game should cost this more or this less, right? Where people are actively complaining about the price of any game nowadays, honestly, whether that be AAA or whether that be indie game. But where I get bothered is when you have an indie game and then you start bashing at them because, oh no, it's too cheap for all the content that this has, right? This game should be worth more. The game should be worth whatever the developers think it's worth, right? We've talked about an open market, and in an open market, it's supply and demand. If a developer puts out their game into Steam or into the wild or wherever they sell it, and the price that they have it on does not sell, then you have to lower the price, right? That's why you have sales and you have all that kind of stuff. But I don't like this culture in the video game space of having people feeling entitled to the price of a product that wasn't even made by them, right? Video games are one of the only industries where you go in and you feel entitled to the price. Like, you don't go to the supermarket, you don't go to buy a movie, and then you go to the person buying when you're gonna buy the movie and say, this movie is not worth $60. You have to lower it down, and you putting this movie at $60 is setting a bad precedent for any other movie creator out there. No, it's either $60 if you like it or you're interested in it, you buy it. If you don't buy it and you just move on, right? The same thing in the groceries, right? In the groceries, there's competition, you have a bunch of different products and all that kind of stuff, but in the groceries, you look at your product, right? You don't think, I hate that this company is putting it this much. No, you just say, oh, this brand is too expensive for me. I'm gonna go for a cheaper brand, right? And there you go, right? This entitlement that you think you know more than the developers, the indie developers themselves, on what they should price their game is ludicrous to me, right? It's okay to complain or it's okay to be upset when something is expensive, right? I'm not saying you can't complain about how expensive a product is. What I think is bad is you feeling entitled to say and demand the creator to change their pricing because they are wrong, right? The developer and the creator should be able to determine their product, right? Once again, you don't go to a art show, or you don't go to somebody's artisanal product, right? You don't go to artisans and go like, oh, that figure that you poured X many hours into making, that's not worth that. That's not worth that much money. You should lower it. You can try to haggle, and you can be like, hey, I would buy this game if you gave me this discount. But you're not, when you're haggling that, you're not just blindly telling the seller, like, you're too expensive. You're making a bad example for everybody else who's made arts and craft. You're setting a bad example. Because of you, it's not, all the other ones are going to start becoming too expensive, or they're going to be expecting more out of my artwork because you're charging so much, or you're charging so little. Like, it's crazy. No, let indie developers that choose to like the price of their game to whatever they see fit. Now, with that said, that is not to say that AAA companies should be charging way more for their game, right? There is a window, right? And people will show it. Once again, if your game is too expensive, then you have to do one of two things. Either you lower the price of the game, or you lower the development cost. And companies have focused so much on marketing, have focused so much on graphics, and have focused so much on I would say, the incorrect aspects of a game, and thus their prices have ballooned, like their budgets have skyrocketed. When in reality, all you need is a good team of passionate individuals that want to create a genuinely fun game. If you focus on making the product good, the money will come after. Similar to people who do streaming, similar to people who do YouTube channel, like videos and stuff like that. If you make a good product, if you make a good video, if you make a good stream, and you might start slow, but eventually you will get the value for your efforts, right? But keep doing a quality and good product. It's not just quantity, it's quality, right? You don't want to become the fast food of video games. And unfortunately, I feel like AAA games have become the fast food of video games, where they're just spewing out games as quickly as possible, and the quality has diminished. But they're still charging you the prices of a restaurant to play them. So there has to be a shift, and people are voting, or people are showing their support with their money. There's a bunch of AAA games out there that I'm not currently seeing as many players or as much traction as they would have if they were a lower price. This idea that higher value of a game means more money is not seeing the entire picture. That's not true. The developers of Silksong put a slow barrier of entry with its price, allowing it to grow as much as it has, allowing for many people to enjoy playing the game and thus making more sales. Companies put such a high barrier that even if you do have a good game, with how many games come out nowadays in the industry, $70 is just not in the budget for everybody. So your level of entry is this much higher. So even if you have the best game, you're not going to get as much traction or as many players because some people just can't afford that level of entry. Silksong proved that a lower level of entry, cost of entry, can be equally as beneficial as a game with a high cost, at least profit-wise. But yeah, so please don't assume you know the worth of somebody else's work. Okay? You just have to deal with what you have. If you don't want to pay that much for a product, then maybe that product is not for you. And if you think that a product is cheap, then don't complain. Be happy about it, right? If you got an ice cream that normally costs you, I don't know, $13 and you got it for $5 in this restaurant, don't go to that restaurant and be like, you should be charging more because that creamery over there, they charge 13 and you're charging 5, right? You don't do that. You just go, oh, awesome. I got a $5 ice cream. This is super affordable and it's super delicious. So do the same with indie games. Just if it's more affordable than other games, take it, play it, enjoy it, and be happy that you didn't have to spend so much money on a game that you really enjoyed and you poured a lot of time into. Meanwhile, don't criticize. If you can't afford a game, that's fine. We don't have infinite money. We can't all afford games. There's a bunch of games I can't afford and I would love to play. For me, I would love to play every game out there. There's a limit, and you have to choose what is worth you investing your time and money on. So that's the overall idea behind at least Silksong and people's reaction to its price and the criticism that has been plaguing Silksong recently due to its success, honestly. It's the same criticism that they gave with Baldur's Gate 3. Don't judge the game based off the price and what people online say. Exactly. It's similar to don't judge the game based off don't judge a book by its cover, right? I am always looking at indie games that would be interesting in playing, and those indie games usually end up being very cheap. Doesn't mean that they're any better, like they're any worse quality, right? If it's just one developer, they can risk making a game that's maybe $5 or $10. But if it's a developer of 3, maybe they need $20. Now I understand that big companies need a game that's maybe 60, right? But that depends on the quality of your product and whether you as an individual, you as a consumer, actually want to play the game hard enough to buy it yourself. We seem to forget sometimes that video games are not a necessity. They're a commodity, right? They're a luxury to have. The fact that we can take time and can play our games is a luxury that we get to have, not something that we need to live, right? It's not water, it's not food, it's not your electric bill. So you have the choice to invest your time on one thing or another and your money on one thing or the other. That's how it should be. So please stop attacking indie developers the indie developers when they take out a good game just because you don't agree with the pricing. All right. that is all the news. So that's everything I wanted to talk about today. Now, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut the stream short today, because I have some prior engagement that I've been working on. But I hope that you guys enjoyed, this little news recap that I gave today, and I hope that you learned a little bit about what's currently going on the gaming industry as a whole. Today we won't be analyzing any specific games, just because I don't have time to do so. I only really had an hour today to be live, but we'll be back next Thursday, and we can go back to looking at some games there after we are done looking at the news. So once again, if you enjoy the information I was providing and you enjoy this type of content, please remember to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell. And apparently there's a little bit of a hype button now, so also consider clicking that and promoting this content. But I'll try to keep you guys informed with news now and in the future. And for those that tuned in live, so Rover and Sans, thank you so much for tuning in. It's a lot of fun, and I hope that you enjoyed. Yep, you can timestamp the new sessions, Sans. Thank you very much for that. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. Sorry for the short stream, but tomorrow I will be going live, and it's gonna be a longer stream. I'm gonna be doing a little bit of a collab. We're gonna be playing Crap Game, so don't feel too sad that I'm leaving early today, because tomorrow I'll be right back around 9 p.m. Eastern time, and we're gonna be playing with a couple of other creators. So we'll see how that goes. I'm very excited for that. So until then, I'll catch you. Have a good afternoon. Have a good night.